Okay, thank you for joining us. We're having a meeting of the Orange County Diversity Council. And right there we have Dr. Gardner. He's been a successful businessman, a successful professor at Ohio State, where I believe he got a PhD. He's the current councilman of Lake Forest. We have Leah Basile, who was very successful at Johnson & Johnson in the business world doing B2B. Now she's a successful housewife, head of an HOA, and she's also running for city council in Lake Forest. We have Ada Haynes, resident of Lake Forest, and Frank, resident of Lake Forest. We also have Enrique, who owns a successful HR.
Frank's running for office.
Oh, Frank's running for office too?
Yeah, Frank Wagner.
Oh, that's who he is. We were trying to figure out who Frank Wagner is, and we have him live on video. So he does exist. He's right here with us.
Got a lot of hits on the video now.
And now we're going to get a lot of hits on the video. This becomes a very exciting impromptu debate, if we can make it that real quick, with my questions here. And we have Enrique. Enrique is a successful human resources diversity consultant. He's also part of the leadership of the Orange County Diversity Council. They've had several phenomenal workshops dealing with millennials, religion in the workforce, with companies such as Broadcom, UPS belongs to the organization, and the Wyndham Resorts. And we have Stan Yombo. He's a successful business owner. He's a part of the leadership team at the Prominence Hotel. He's very active in the community, and he is what I would call like an ambassador to the community. He provides a lot of diversity to Lake Forest, and he's an activist in his own way. To begin our discussion today, we're going to have Enrique, and he's going to inform us a little bit more about the Orange County Diversity Council.
All right, and I'll just take a moment in case you're not familiar with the Orange County Diversity Council, which is part of the umbrella of the National Diversity Council. And we work with organizations across the country, helping to raise education and awareness around a variety of diversity and inclusion issues. This is our first kind of community town hall. Generally, once a month, we work with different organizations and host different topic-oriented sessions. Our signature event is usually the beginning of the year, Women's Leadership Forum, which we held at Kia, about several hundred people there. We tie in with the California Diversity Council on a conference at the Westin in Long Beach. Most of our sessions are fairly small, working with organizations. Recently, we worked with OSER here in Lake Forest.
Largest employer in Lake Forest, awesome.
Doing a wonderful event to focus on disability issues. As Josh said, we've looked at millennial issues. We've taken a look at how to help small businesses be successful and understand diversity issues. So this is a unique one to focus more on the community and maybe an issue that is important as we take a look at, of course, the elections, what's going on around our country, and so on. So we appreciate your being here. So we'll let Josh kind of take it away with some of the questions that he's prepared.
Absolutely. Now the questions are going to center around law enforcement and how it works in conjunction with the community and mainly the business community. Dr. Gardner, have you ever been stopped by the police? And what was your experience? And what are the expectations that the community and the business community should have in conjunction with the police and police stops?
I have a red convertible sports car.
That says a lot.
So, I get probably stopped a little more often than average, but not that much. And but I run into the police, not merely being stopped, but all the time. If they're in my neighborhood, I run into them when they're doing something. So I run into them not every week, but certainly a few times a month for one reason or another. And police, to me, are pretty respectful and responsive, and I don't have any complaints about the way the police handle me when I run into them.
All right. So as a city councilman in Lake Forest, since we have such a diverse population in Lake Forest, the different issues that have happened with African American, and then issues with Arab, Sharia law folks that work at different companies within Lake Forest. What's a process that maybe you've talked to Detective Valentine, or what are your expectations you have of maybe Valentine being able to handle situations like that and just make sure Lake Forest doesn't get in the news?
Lake Forest is pretty much a quote white bread kind of a police force. Our police force is predominantly white. I can't off the top of my head think of anybody that isn't white, and it's predominantly male. I can only recall really only one female, and she's the least senior person. So that makes us very undiverse, more underrepresented than most police departments. Most police departments in the United States are also underrepresented with regard to race and sex. And one could add disability, but I think disability you understand because it's a police job. You got to chase people. You got to do things. So the chances are, if you had a physical disability, it's not going to bode well for police. But almost everywhere, matter of fact, I believe the latest study says about 67% of the cities throughout the United States have some kind of representation, and when they add it all up, it's primarily race and sex, and to a less extent disabilities. That's not a problem if your city is primarily a white city.
Right.
And around us, interestingly enough, we are the most ethnically diverse city in South Orange County. So that's interesting. Although generally speaking, South Orange County is 60 to 70% white on average. Most cities are more than 70% white, and we're only about 67 or 66% white. We have the most, or it's one of the most highest Hispanic populations in South Orange County, and interestingly enough, we have the second highest Asians in South Orange County.
But that's not being represented by the police force, and that hasn't been addressed with Detective Valentine at all.
No, so we are ethnically diverse, and I believe the most ethnically diverse, but you wouldn't see that. Interestingly enough, in terms of sex, in Orange County, for every 1,000 women, there are 985 men. So men, that's good news. Ladies, but so there are more women than men, and in terms of
so that gives Leah an inherent advantage in the local next election in November, I would say.
If they vote by sex,
Right.
definitely would win.
Right. So Leah, have you been stopped by the police? What has been your experience? And as a woman, sometimes it can be intimidating being stopped by the police. Let us know your emotions, let's say, in that particular situation, with the current political environment.
Well, I haven't been stopped very many times, but in the past when I had been, of course there's always going to be a level of discomfort, you're getting pulled over for something. But in all of my interactions with police, I've never had an adverse, interaction with one. With my family, we have a great respect for the firefighters and the police officers. When we're out in public and we see a police officer, I teach my boys to go up to them and say, thank you for your service.
Right.
Because in my opinion, they have the most dangerous job right now, especially given this current climate. And I think that we as residents should do our best to foster a positive impact on the police, because they are sacrificing literally their lives to protect us. And I think it would be a lot better for the community in general if we could be more respectful, understanding that they are just doing their job. And if we're not combative or angry, we're not going to have a negative result generally. We just, stay calm, and they, in all of my interactions, they've always been very respectful.
Frank, you're running also as well. Have you been stopped by the police? And what are your feels by the process? And Ada, Enrique, and Stan, feel free to jump in. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, I've never been stopped in the Lake Forest area. But I do understand what you're saying. I agree with that because my husband's cousin was in the Arcadia Police Force for quite a few years, and my best friends, a couple that are married, he was also in the Arcadia Police Force for a number of years. So I appreciate what they do for the community and thank them all the time for what they do. And I believe the same thing with the men that are in the service now. I just, within the last couple of weeks, have become friendly with two young men. One's in the Army and one's in the Marines, and they're waiting to get deployed. But I live in the neighborhood that belongs in the association with the Sun and Sail Club, Lake 2, in Lake Forest. And so they've been down there fishing on the lake, and that's how I got to know them. And they're really nice young men.
But Frank, you're running. So what's your what is your insight you can provide to the community, and maybe something that you would do on the council tied into this, and tell us an experience if you have been stopped by the police.
Well, I was stopped by a woman policeman
Okay.
after I got out of work, and because it was working late, it was past the hours, and they weren't.
What did she stop you for?
Well, because it was past after hours.
You were breaking a curfew, you were speeding?
No.
So when I get your number?
Businesses have hours they work by.
Right.
And when a business is closed, and an hour after the business closes, someone's leaving the back of the building.
Got
then
it.
they
That was here in Lake Forest?
No, it was in Huntington.
No.
Oh, okay.
And
HB.
so she's like, mind if I pat you down? Yeah, no problem. So,
That's what I see.
and no problem. What are you doing? Yeah, I work here. Here's my card. Okay. So, okay. Bye.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be your answer to the question? You have a very diverse workforce. Let's say you make it to the city council and you're having a sit down with Detective Valentine. How would that conversation go?
Well, the diversity of the workforce depends on how many people apply within each demographic. If you only have a few people apply who are women, well, there's not much you can do there except for advertise more for the women thing.
But as far as diversity, traffic stops and the police force dealing with a diverse workforce.
Are you defining what you're saying? You're saying if you have a diverse workforce, it's a fixed number currently. In the future, it'll increase. Diversity depending on applications.
Right. Would you want Detective Valentine to be sensitive to the diversity? What would you say to Detective Valentine?
What's his occupation?
Is it cheap?
Detective Valentine, or Chief Valentine, he's the chief of police for Lake Forest.
Police
Is he responsible for hiring?
Yes, he's part of the HR process. So he would hire. So you could say, Chief Valentine, I think you should be sensitive to Lake Forest having a diverse population. I would like the 18 police officers in Lake Forest to kind of mirror that.
That's expected. I also want to speak to the other HR people.
Okay.
Not just one person.
At the Orange County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
He's not the only person.
Yeah. So my next question to Dr. Garner. Oh,
So
you got
actually,
it.
one thing I may want to add, and Stan, I'd like to hear some of your experience too,
Yeah.
is that I spent many years working in the diversity arena in the Midwest, and I lived for a while on the East Coast. And my experience has been a little different than most of the folks. I primarily lived in white areas. And so part of what I would want to make sure the chief of police in Lake Forest understands is that as the diversity changes in this area, that he and the police force, irrespective of anything, understand that the experience of people who are not white is very different in many cases than
Right.
what they have experienced. Because I've been stopped many times by the police just because I was different in white areas, and often said, okay, well, the left truck was a warning, even though there really was no reason to stop. You know, I've had different experiences checking into hotels, checking into airlines, being stopped by the police, family members, and so on. And it's not to say that there's a negative issue here, it's just an awareness issue of
Right.
my life experience that many of the folks in communities that are primarily white don't have or don't understand or aren't aware of. Again, it's not negative. It's just an awareness issue
Right.
that we need to be able to work on. So,
Enrique raises an important issue there when you talked about the transition and where they have found the biggest problems with the lack of diversity on police forces is in cities and communities which have undergone transition. But the fact is, most police forces, it's the kind of an industry that doesn't change quickly. It's not like a high-tech industry where people are going. It's a staid industry. So where communities have experienced more rapid transition and more minorities moving in, those police forces have had less ability to react as a work or a university or other places would. And in the studies that they do, they find that California, for example, turns out to be one of the worst states with regard to having problems that come from lack of diversity because of the rapidly changing minorities. Within 5 or 10 years, you can suddenly get an influx of Vietnamese or Asians or Mexicans or Latinos, or et cetera, and it changes the neighborhood, but the police force hasn't changed. So they know very little about that culture, what it means to look at you in one way in one culture means a different thing.
Right.
So
Right.
they have a much more difficult time to adjust. And so transition in transitional cities or communities presents a big problem for police forces.
Can I dovetail on that one?
Absolutely.
Considering the OCSD covers more than just, a couple of cities,
Correct.
I would think that they would be more fluid in their ability to relocate, based upon the population, the gender, and ethnicity. Also, you probably would end up with a higher level of turnover because you are dealing with a much larger group. So I would think it would be easier for the OCSD as opposed to just a city-specific police department to be able to be more diverse.
Right.
Now,
Absolutely.
when I worked for Johnson & Johnson, they were very stringent on diversity policies. And so what they would do is just to make sure that they were able to collect as many candidates as possible, they would delay closing a position until they achieved a certain number of diversity candidates. And that's not to say that they were any less qualified.
Correct.
It just gives them a longer
Right.
opportunity to be able to come in and apply for the position. That might be something that the OCSD should consider doing as well.
Right, and something you can advise Valentine about
So
doing.
are you saying that OCSD overall, because it's larger, has a higher turnaround rate?
Well,
Turnover
generally,
rate?
if you're dealing with a small police department that only has 20 people, you're not going to have, if only 10% of the population turns over, that's only 2 cops. But if you have 250 police officers and you've got 10% turnover, now you're dealing with 25 police officers. It gives you a much better opportunity to be able to integrate change into the organization.
Stan, you wanted to add something?
Well, for me, of course, I've never been arrested in Lake Forest. But by my kind of business, from LA to Orange County, I've worked with police. But again, that's when you wear your suit and tie. But I can say in Los Angeles, actually also Anaheim, I was in suit and tie where that was probably 10 or 15 years ago. I was not happy because I was driving a fancy car. It was a Jaguar. I was in my suit and tie, and they wanted me to sit on the street. So yeah, so those are the, just bad experience. But that was like 15 years ago. That was Anaheim. But those are the things like, hold on a second, you know, you want to handcuff me and put in your car, that's what I ask you. I'm not going to sit there. Put me in your car, handcuff me, I don't care. But I'm not going to sit outside on the street with my suit and, you know, whatever you think I'm doing. So he was not happy. But no, Lake Forest, I work with cops. Most police officers are great. Again, shout out to them. You know, they do a great job. Something I want to say, of course, off kind of topic, but it's like, if there is a bad cop, they need to tell them.
Right.
I mean, we know that. When people say, you know, bad cops and cops, you know, bad cops, they don't say all cops are bad. I just want to make sure that we understand that part. A bad police will ruin everybody else. That's what we're seeing right now.
Right.
It's a little group of people that just ruin most of our friends, because I have so many friends in the police force. They do such a great job. They want to retire as a policeman. They have 4th-generation police officer and a tiny little group of police. They ruined the whole thing because they shot someone who was unarmed. So I just want to clarify that part. Now, when it comes to diversity, I work with big companies. That's true. You know, they will do their best to kind of create that diversity. But now I'm working only on a small property, like the smallest I've worked for, 60 rooms. It becomes hard when you have to wait longer, for example. That's why I'm seeing Lake Forest is probably on the same situation, where if you want to find diversity, it's going to be so difficult. But now, it doesn't mean that whatever we have here should not learn about the community. For me, it doesn't matter if you have more white or black. They just have to be people that knows the community better. When they present themselves, let's say right now we have actually not just growth on Latino, actually. We also have growth on Indians. You have a lot of companies that are hiring Indians from India, literally, not just American Indians, but people coming from India. So their behavior or the cooking, but again, cooking curry, for example, the smell will expand, and some people will be like, oh my God, so a policeman should know, okay, you know what, this is how I can deal with it. I'm from Congo, like, if we're watching a game, we yell. We scream and yell at each other. So a policeman who knows the community would be like, oh, I know I'm gonna handle this. Instead of just coming and give you orders for something that I'm not gonna understand. Well, why is that? He's giving me orders instead of explaining me that, okay, your neighbor just complained about this and such and such. Something else is just, you know, I understand the adrenaline when a police officer show up in places, but I think that's what they need to teach them. Sometimes they need to control that adrenaline. I don't know what class they have to take. A lot of them, because I've been there, I own a security company, where when you are dealing with a situation, you are high, kind of. Your adrenaline is so high, you kind of forget how to be polite sometimes, and I think it happened to a lot of our cops. But since they're professional, they get paid so much for it, they just probably have to learn about it. I mean, I've seen a lot of cops, they're very polite and handle situations so well. So diversity is great, but sometimes I think police, they just need to know the community better.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
So instead of someone living like 100 miles away from you, he just come for a job.
Right.
And go home. He doesn't even know Mr. Gardner by name.
Right.
He doesn't know Leah by name. You know, I'd rather have someone, we have like 80,000 people, but at least he knows, okay, you know what, oh, Josh, Yumbo's complaining about noise in your house. Right. It would be a different matter if you just like, sir, shut up your music and leave. We don't want that. You know, we want our community to just be a great community with the sheriff department will be just great. And shout out to Chef Valentine.
Right. So you would tell Chief Valentine to be sensitive to the Indian workers, the Arab workers that are coming in and out, people wearing burqas.
You cannot put someone
sheriffs to have a little
correct. I mean, don't forget, you know, if you're a white person and now they don't respect your culture either because you're Irish or Scottish or whatever it is, or just from Orange County, you know, you're a girl. You know, the stereotype OC girl, by example. The cops need to know that. They cannot just ignore that either. They cannot just say, okay, now I'm going to learn about, you know, Yombos from Congo. Forget about that OC girls who's going to wear, like, I'll give an example. I think it's kind of, you know, crazy. I took my sister, she just came from Congo. I took her to Disneyland. There is a new trend for girls right now. They're all wearing those little tiny shorts with part of their body showing. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
Yeah. So, believe me, no one has complained yet because Now let me just put it in perspective here.
My wife complains.
No, my sister complained. I saw people complaining.
The females complain.
They did, no. Some of them, no. They complain, but it's not outrage yet. But just think about it. If you have someone from Congo or a black person with a very, large behind wearing the same short, I'm 100% sure it's going to be an outrage. Let's agree to that one. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't want people just to say, oh my God, okay, these people can do this, is fine. But oh my God, now it becomes no diversity.
Right.
So police should be the same thing. You cannot just separate, just say, oh my God, no, okay, if it's not good for one person, it's not good for everybody. HOA, by example, if you say no flags, period, on everybody's houses, so even American flag doesn't go up.
Which is
That's
against the law.
It's in violation of freedom of speech.
Basically. So, but what I'm saying is, like, if we do one rules, let's make
Okay.
sure that everybody
So
understands.
what you're technically saying then is avoiding the stereotypes.
Correct.
So
Very important.
when you walk up to a car,
Yeah.
you just have to assume it's a novel situation. You can't see that the person has blonde hair.
Blonde
or
hair.
the person is black or
No.
Asian and pass
No.
judgment before
Correct.
you approach the
Correct.
situation.
Correct. And if you're gonna, treat the other person nicely, why don't you treat the other one nicely as well? Instead of just right away, putting your hand in your gun. Because I've seen that. That happened to me in LA. Like right away, the guy he's got a hand in his gun. Oh, but you're a big guy. Well, how does it make me feel? You want me to lose weight and cut my legs? I can't change that. I understand, but hey, you're the one with the gun. I had a sheriff in West Hollywood, literally calling his base saying that he's afraid of me. But he's
Right.
the one with the gun.
Exactly. All right.
I'm like, okay, sir, I'm a manager of a building here. You're inside my lobby. So I don't see why you should be afraid of me. I have my security guards. So why are you gonna call your chief commander or post commander and say that, you need backup? That makes sense. So yeah, stuff like that. So basically, remove stereotype and make sure that, we make sure the job is done
Right,
properly.
and something interesting to pivot a little bit about live video here in 2016. We had a comment from one of our Facebook folks who are watching the live video, and it's from Sherry Anderson. And you guys can comment quickly before the next question, and I'll let Dr. Garner, Leah, and Frank, who's running, comment quickly.
Yeah, just read it even if you got to.
Yeah, and just to add flavor to it, this is what Sherry was triggered watching our video today. Sherry Anderson states, I have a problem with the sheriffs in Lake Forest supporting the campaign against Lake Forest residents and councilmen. They have donated to the Nick is Nuts xenophobic campaign. They kept residents from collecting signatures on a sidewalk, and surprise, quickly their contract is approved for the sheriff's department. I believe it's a $16 million contract. As a Lake Forest resident, I think it is wrong and makes me leery of their intentions. Very quickly, Dr. Gardner, Leah, and Frank.
Well, what she says is true. In fact, the Orange County Sheriff's Department did interfere with the abilities of American citizens to exercise their First Amendment rights. I complained about it to the chief when it was happening. And in addition, the Association of Sheriffs, it's not the
Right.
Orange County Sheriff's Department, but the Sheriff's Union, whatever they call it, did contribute $10,000 in a very nasty campaign, a racist, slanderous campaign against Councilman Nick. So she's absolutely right in the sense that the Orange County Sheriff's Department can be seen as having political motivations, or at least in recent years, that's true.
Leah?
First of all, hi Sherry.
Yeah.
And it is a really good point, and kind of what Dr. Gardner said. When politics jump into good decision making, there's a problem there. Police officers are hired to do a job, and the job is to protect the citizens. And I think that those lines were crossed and misunderstood during the recall, and that was a very unfortunate situation. And I wouldn't say that that would be every police But yeah, that was a very unfortunate situation, and it was not handled well.
Sherry says hi back. on Facebook. And Frank, what are your views on the topic?
I'm not sure how this applies to the diversity forum.
Well, maybe not, but you
Maybe
know,
not. It was just Sherry's
it was
comment.
just
She's
a
watching.
comment. She's watching right now.
It's her
So
problem,
she
so we
just
want
in
to
general
include the audience there on Facebook with whatever they comments they would like to.
Correct. I think she.
But you have no comment, Frank.
Is there any
Yeah.
other comments?
No, that's just the other. That's she's
How
the
many
only.
people are viewing?
We have 10 people viewing.
Can
10
I go-
potential voters, Frank.
Can I go back to something that Stan said about the police interaction with you? And you're a big guy, so the guy's got his hand on his gun. The fact is, generally speaking, most police injuries don't come from the expected shootout with a gangster. They come unexpectedly.
Correct.
They come when they intervene in a marriage dispute and the wife grabs a knife and zips him, or they turn around to handle the wife and a guy hits him, or they come from what seems to be a normal
Exactly.
person, so that's why they're wary. And I think deservedly so. In another life, I used to train police, so I know these situations and I know what they do, and their life literally, as I think Leah and other people said, their lives are at stake, and we don't tend to realize that. It's important from diversity's point of view because different cultures and different races and different sexes all have their own ways of behaving. So the better you know how these kinds of people move or talk, or if an Asian person looks away, or if someone from the Congo stares at you, what that means versus that might not mean the same thing as your friend. You can deal with that. I used to do sensitivity training with police. We used to go out with Aborigines. This is when I lived in Australia, and we would put them together with Aborigines, and we put them together with gay and lesbian people. Put them together with all kinds of different groups so they could understand them. The problem, I think, for modern policing is that cops don't walk the beat anymore. When you walk the beat in an Italian neighborhood, an Irish neighborhood, a black neighborhood, whatever it is, you got a sense of the culture.
Correct.
You knew how people moved and what they did. Nowadays, and this is OCS, but all over, they're in squad cars. They're much less in touch with the
They're
neighborhoods
afraid of it.
and therefore the cultures. So they're a little more wary than they might have been in the old days when they walked the beats.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's a
That's
solution
true.
to that.
True. I mean, they're not part of the community the way they're supposed to be. That's pretty much what it is. Now it's just a job. I've got my 12 hours or 10 hours to do. I live, 100 miles away from that city where I'm going to work to. I don't even know nobody, I don't know how many people, I just go there, sit in my squad car until they call me. Go to 2003 Broadway Avenue and there is a dispute. That's it.
Yes, most of our police officers don't live here,
Yes.
so that makes it a problem.
Correct.
But
You have probably a few of them, like one or two.
a few do.
Yeah.
But on any given day, you probably have on the day shift, we only have 60-something police for a city that's got to cover 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. There might be 5 or 6 police on a shift covering the whole city. So I don't know, how do we put it in
One of
a
the things that
neighborhood?
you had mentioned earlier was about transition. When I worked with a lot of different organizations, and by the way, I was with Pfizer for many years, so I knew Johnson & Johnson.
Competition.
That's right, competition. But what was challenging for organizations, which I'm going to assume is somewhat similar to communities, is that as demographics changed, it was much more rapid than the company's employee population, leadership population to absorb. So when the demographics here change, and to your point, when somebody isn't able to really be in the community, but you're seeing things change around you, you're not able to respond as quickly
Right away,
as you'd like to get informed, to understand it, to kind of figure out how do I balance my own messages, my bias, my sensitivity around what I'm seeing happen around me that I don't necessarily understand, yet. And so, the police force, they have to be aware. They always have sort of this extra level of, am I ready for whatever the situation is? But we don't always know what that situation
Correct, right.
really is complete.
So what you're saying, technically, the lack of knowledge is what's breeding
Exactly.
fear.
Exactly.
And if you have a group of police that don't normally interact with that culture on a personal level, their lack of understanding
Yes.
will definitely breed fear. And you can hear it when you just have conversations with regular people.
Exactly.
They don't know anybody who's Middle Eastern, they don't know anyone who's Vietnamese.
Correct.
So they start making comments about those cultures, not realizing that once they got down and sat down with them, they're the most hospitable people.
Exactly.
You have to have a personal interaction with each type of person that is living in those communities. And that could probably be achieved through a community outreach program with police officers. If the ones that don't live in the city and don't interact with those groups, they should be trying to come with these community events to draw those people out to get to know them better.
Correct.
The better understanding you have of a culture, the less negative interactions you will have with them.
One of the worst things that organizations did when I was doing all of my diversity work was, in trying to understand diversity, they would have diversity days. We'll do potlucks and food.
That's how I do our work.
And that's not what it's about, to your point.
Yeah.
It is about sitting down, understanding. Knowledge,
Yeah.
getting to interact with different folks, and people from different, backgrounds.
Correct.
And being able to understand what we don't know.
It's the same thing. I mean, when we talk about police force, it will be similar to the fire department. I don't know if you guys know that. The fire department will come to your business on a just random day, and they will study your building.
Right.
In case of an emergency. They will just study your building. Like, they know all the exits, they know the stairs, they know where your emergency. That's what they do. They will spend like an hour, 2 hours just walking your building. Because in case of an emergency, they know where to go. So it's the same thing. I think we can achieve it if the police, like we said, it can be a Saudi Arabian community or, Congolese or, Mexican. We talking about, I give an example, we talking about in Kiwanis, like when we do special days, when we do hot dogs and burgers. But now that everything is changing, we can add certain things in the menu. It would be, let's say, what do you call those, taco carts, which is very popular, by example. It's not just Mexican, actually. The taco cart is, everybody loves taco cart.
Oh, yes.
But people from the Mexican descent will be like, that's even cool, because we have something we can relate to. I came here one day, I forgot what event it was. They had those the snow cone, whatever, the ice, shaved ice. For the Latin community, it's like a big thing, nieves, I think they call it, right?
Right.
So those are little things, little tiny things. Like you don't notice, you just think, oh yeah, it's normal. But for other communities, like, oh, we're welcome to show up in this event because they understand this kind of. And I think that is achievable. We can do it. We can just create something that.
Right. Now, to that point, I want to. It's a slight pivot, but I think we're heading in that direction. I'll ask Dr. Gardner, and I'll ask Leah and Frank to respond, and then Ada, Enrique, and Yumbo can jump in. And the original way I wrote this question is that I owned a Cuban restaurant in Florida, little bit of a different environment. So it was understood as a business owner in Florida that when the police came in to eat, their food was free.
Yeah.
And the reason why the food was free was so I can get some extra attention as a business owner. So my question is to Dr. Gardner, Leah, and Frank that are running for office.
Well, technically, that action is brought.
Technically it is, but it's done.
But you know what? Actually, for businesses, it does help. It's an appreciation. We can call it bribe, but we also, for business, we call appreciation to the men and women who serve your community. It's to say thank you. That's what I just mentioned here. Good cops are there. We need to thank them. We can buy them a coffee. We can buy them a donut. Again, that was stereotyping.
Those are gifts, and those are required to be by law.
True.
Right. Mine were wink, wink.
Thank you.
Mine were wink, wink. You get robbed.
I know. But for me, I think as a citizen and a business, operator, it's an appreciation. For me, every time they come to my hotel, I want to show them that I appreciate everything you do. Not, I'm a resident and I operate business in Lake Forest. So for me, it's both. Like as a resident, I feel protected. I go to the gym at
There you
9,
go.
10
That's the whole
p.m.
point.
I walk to the gym. So if I didn't feel safe, well, I live in LA. I know, no, I live in LA. I live in LA. Believe me, I will still do it because I'm a kind of crazy
Right.
guy. You know, I like challenges. But the thing is, like, I think in Lake Forest, I felt safe, kind of. I do, because that's how I grew up where I'm from in Congo. It was in an area where it was not too crowded, residents, and you can walk on the street without fearing that someone will attack you. It would be more like, you know, even you working in the dark, a voice comes from the dark, but you know it's Leah. You know? Hey, Yaba, where you going? Or you be Dr. Gardner, hey, you forgot to pick up the dog. You know, like, those are the areas I grew up in Congo. So here, I feel the same. Like, you know, if I'm
Right.
going to see somebody,
It's the right process.
it's
But,
Josh,
but
right?
from a governmental standpoint, how do you engage and talk this discussion as far as diversity? For example, the Hilton Hotel might get more police, help than a local mom and pop, like a small cute restaurant I have.
Well, I think that's up to them.
Correct.
If he wants to do that, and I understand, it, not only that, but then you've got police around, police are in the restaurant. So that's a good thing too, because
Another element I want to add in Torrance, when Toyota left, the city government had no relationship with Toyota. They didn't even know they left. So another aspect of diversity is having the police force be an added value, not only to be sensitive with diversity, but be added value to retain a business like Osser that's in the Diversity Council in here in Lake Forest.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that you want the city going in and making rules about whether he can or can't do that. So when I go to the corner bakery, they give me a discount.
Exactly.
Because you're a
I'm
councilor.
senior citizen. No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I go to McDonald's, I got 50 cents now.
Well, that's an issue I have to bring up with Lake Forest because the definition of senior in Lake Forest is 50, and that's me in 5 years, and there's no way.
Oh, geez.
So
That's
I don't
another
mind
topic.
I don't mind that the corner bakery gives me a
Of course.
discount. If they want to give the discount to a
police.
military person or a fireman
I
or
do that.
somebody else, I think that's great. I don't have a problem with that.
Lee, what are your topics?
My sister is just retired with the Air Force, 23 years. Her husband is still active duty. I went to a big event with about 30 or 40 servicemen, and I was listening to the conversations, and many of them said they had not bought themselves breakfast, lunch, or dinner
There
in
you go.
about 5 years.
Yeah.
Because whenever they go
There's
somewhere,
appreciation.
people pay for their meals. They don't
That's
even know
awesome.
who these people are. It's
That's
completely random. And I think in those cases, absolutely, appreciation is vital. But
True,
there,
true.
there is a line
Yes.
from being appreciative and coming to expect it.
Right.
Okay, police officers should never
Expect.
expect when they walk into some place that
They're
they
gonna
should
give
get a
them a
free
full
coffee, a free taco, a free whatever.
Correct.
You know, as long as there's a level of understanding and appreciation, I have no problem with that.
Exactly.
But when it starts to hinder your
Expect.
job
Yes.
and your ability to defend
Correct.
other businesses that require attention, whereas they're getting something from one, so they give that one more attention, I think that's wrong. But I have no problem with businesses appreciating our servicemen
True.
and our men in
Now,
blue.
I don't know what the whole Hilton came out, but as I work for a lot of hotels. You don't want the presence of uniformed people all the time in your property.
Right.
I mean, your property is not safe anymore. That's why in my hotel, I always ask when they come for a situation to park on the side, because that is a sign that your hotel is not safe. So
Right.
I don't know how that would work out for them, but you know, you cannot just have a lot of cops on the one property. No, that's something. Maybe the response, I don't know, but
Well, there's a regulation within the
Yeah.
OCSD about that as well.
Correct.
You can only have a certain number of men.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, in a facility at a time
Exactly.
for safety
Yeah.
reasons.
Frank?
Well, I don't believe the cops should be accepting any gifts of any form like that. It's probably policy because it's still a bribe, maybe a small amount.
So from a business standpoint and from a diversity standpoint, how should the department engage with businesses large and small or maybe throwing a Bernie Sanders income inequality aspect to it.
Well, regarding to the comparison between a small business
Right.
and his business,
Right.
the number of people it serves, his serves a number of people who are more long-term, they're staying overnight. These guys are serving people who serve more short-term, but in a small business, you have a chance of somebody robbing it. In his place, probably not as much, unless they're gonna steal a mattress or something.
Right.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah,
Believe me, people do a lot of craziness.
yeah.
They stole my computers.
Somebody walks in an address.
Yeah.
And then they notice the fax machine's missing, and the person's waddling out the door. And I've seen
Driving
that happen.
something, yes.
I've seen that happen in retail. You know, person comes in, he's waving his hand,
Yep.
trying to talk to the manager, and the lady who was with him was
Taking
walking
stuff.
around and she's waddling out the door, and excuse me, ma'am,
What do you have in there?
your baby fax machine just
Ah.
arrived. She dropped it and then bolted.
Yeah. You know, what I'm saying is, I think there is a great, I understand, you know, bribery and all that, but I think when we talk about community here, there is always a gray. It's similar to a policeman who works on the poor community. I think we've seen so many videos where a policeman, with his own money, has helped someone in a Target or you know, black community. I've seen in the black community where cops just buy them gifts. So that's the kind of, because you're not supposed to do that as a cop anyway. But I believe it's just a community thing. Like bribery, yes, but if I can appreciate you with a cup of coffee,
You can't regulate.
yeah, you cannot. I mean, let me appreciate that person. You know, I think they should give us a chance to appreciate anybody that we can. If I can even give them like a gift certificate for something, you know, it's a gift. Like I said, they don't need to expect it, so because that will affect our business. But if I see a cop and I'm happy you're serving me, you need a cup of coffee or orange juice in the morning or a croissant or a muffin, why not? Because, I mean, like you said, they put themselves in line. I mean, if we talk about, let's go back to that diversity actually we're talking about. In my property, okay, most of people who commit problems, they're mostly the white race, not minority. They get arrested today, and tomorrow they get released. It's mostly, I have a wall of pictures. And the thing is, it's kind of tough to, you know, when we talk about diversity. I think we just have to regulate things.
Well, it's more, and we'll finish with this because I think Enrique has a very good point about diversity.
Correct.
Folks confuse diversity with just race and gender. It's a lot more complex than that. Can you speak to that in closing, Enrique?
Well, again, it goes back to, you know, raising awareness. And I would like to hear your perspective as a resident about this discussion around diversity and how it fits in the course. But diversity certainly is going to focus on the things that the media focuses on, right?
Right.
Race and gender.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet there are many, many other aspects, certainly around disability and mental health, which is a huge issue in Orange County. It is around how we all fit in the workplace. I hate being in organizations when they say somebody didn't fit. What does that mean? Was it because of the personality type, the psychological type that nobody else was willing to accommodate or understand? So it's many other things about the whole person.
Right.
And the understanding that we're willing to give around motivate somebody, drive somebody, how different might they be, and do we see that as an opportunity to grow versus something that we're afraid of, which often we are, because it's not the same as what we're used to.
Right.
So I think this discussion about diversity in the community, I think it's great that.
Oh, it was an awesome video, I must say. Thank you so much.
To start. So, any comment? I'd love to hear your perspective from you who are kind of listening to the rest of it. In terms of how you think diversity will fit in Lake Forest. And,
Oh boy, I don't know how to put it in a small comment, but I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I was just kind of
On the spot. I was listening to what everybody had to say, so.
Very fascinating. Great
But
discussion
I
you
think
guys had. It really was.
diversity is an important thing.
Yes.
Do you have any closing comments? I'll let Dr. Gardner, Leah, and Frank close for us.
Just to reinforce what's been said, diversity is an important issue. It's not just to the police, but in organizations as a whole. And it doesn't simply impact the people, and you left out age, another
Correct.
common
Oh,
group,
yeah.
Right.
common group, but you know, the racial, sexual, disability, the age, the religious, there's a whole bunch of other.
Bernie Sanders would say income inequality as well. So that, you know.
Yeah, no, and those are all, not only is it an issue to those people who represent the minorities, but it's an issue to the majority as well. The majority is made better by more, being more diverse and by incorporating the diversity into it. So we're not just looking to make life better for minority populations, but by doing that, you're making life better for everybody.
Absolutely. Leah?
I agree. It's the more diverse you have in an organization, you're more well-rounded because you're approaching things from all different perspectives.
Right.
And the way that we're headed in this country, you know, we're going to have a much more diverse, you know, community. And I think it would be really great for the OCSD to see that shift and be able to course correct now while we have the opportunity. Because it would be unfortunate if nothing changed and in 10 or 20 years, you know, the Caucasian population has dropped down, you know, to 40%, and, you know, we've got 60% more diverse and they haven't shifted. So
Right.
there, some policies need to be enforced within OCSD to make it a more organic, functioning organization so that they are able to shift easier into where the future is headed.
And you would hold Chief Valentine accountable for that.
I think he has a pretty good understanding, you know, of the community and his police force, and I have faith that he'll do the right thing.
Okay.
Awesome. Frank?
I would like to see the police, government in general, increasing the circle that they're wanting demographics in. You know, it doesn't do any good if 1,000 applicants go and 10 of them are women.
Correct.
And you go, okay, well, we need 10 women to meet the percentage required, but we only have 10 women apply, so I guess all of them think, well, wait, this one woman, she's blind and missing 2 arms, and she's supposed to drive the car. You know, because most of our cities have police driving. So, okay, well, we have to hire anyway. Well, we want to make sure we are safe, but we also want to make sure they're not doing any blocking of someone because it is a woman.
Totally.
But, you know, to get the increase in applicants, maybe more stuff at the schools, stuff like that. And as far as walking the beat, where would you walk the beat now? In Lake Forest. If a cop was going to go walk the beat, well, okay, get out of the car and start walking down Copper Cliff Drive or something. You know, everybody's going to sit there. Is there a cop walking down the street? Whose house is he going to? If you walked in the shopping center, would the police, would the people shopping there go, did someone get robbed? Is it that hotel? Someone stealing the mattress?
Totally.
We have high crime neighborhoods in Lake Forest.
Yeah.
I'd have no problem with police walking the beat in high
Correct.
crime neighborhoods.
Where are they?
Well, we'll go ahead and close. This
Not
was
long.
a fascinating
It is.
discussion. We're going to close this video. Thank you for the panelists that were here today. It was phenomenal and awesome. And we're going to have another one, maybe in a month, Women in Politics. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.